Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another week of fantastic questions. We've got some great ones. Thank you very much. Before I jump into everything, before I jump into the plugs and everything like that, I just want to pay tribute, really, or pay my respects, as it were, to Queen Elizabeth II. Obviously, she passed away yesterday. Being British, quite a momentous event in certainly my life. I know I won't dwell on it as it's not the focus of the channel. I don't like to talk about real world stuff, but it is a significant event in history. So thoughts are with the royal family at this time. Right, so on to light subjects. The fantastic questions we've got, these are mainly from the early access group, some are from video comments from last week. You can leave a comment down below, or you can get in the early access group. That's the best way to do it. It's a great community to be in. And you can leave your question in there in the weekly post that I put up when I asked for questions for these videos. Before we jump into them though, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, you know, the important YouTube stuff. And more importantly, you can support the channel. The best way to support me, support the channel, keep these videos coming free of charge. And the best bit is get your hands on the best Kendo equipment in the galaxy. Now, of course, I would say that. Of course, I would say that. Because I own KendoStar.com. But if you check out our reviews, our Trustpilot ratings, all that, you'll see that everyone agrees with me. And I'm sure that everyone in your dojo is already using KendoStar for their equipment needs. Why would you not? We're the best at what we do. It's undisputed, really. Let's be honest. So, right, okay, let's get to these questions. Right, first one. Since I started attending my new dojo, how's the sound, by the way? I hope the sound's getting better. I'm working every week. I've got a different microphone on this week, another different one. I think we'll get a different sound this time. I think it'll be better. Let me know anyway. I hope it's improving. I am, you know, doing my best every week to try and improve the quality. But yeah, anyway, right. Since I started attending my new dojo, I'm having real trouble attacking men. I can't move faster than my Aide, who always land men before me, even if I'm starting in the perfect distance. And I'm being outstrengthed if I try to work with my Shinai to move them out of the way. I was thinking about testing for Jodan in a few months, but if I can't land a single men cut in 2 hours of Jigeko, something's obviously wrong. Any advice on how to approach my next practice to try and fix it? Thanks again. Yeah, so it's very difficult to judge this based off what you're saying, but it's not about being faster than your IT for a start. It's about attacking at the right timing. Don't worry too much. I think you're probably worrying a little bit too much. But if you really are having trouble getting those strikes to land, the chances are that your attacks lack Kikentai no Ichi. That's usually the cause of this sort of thing. So what I would say, the best way for me to be able to help you would be to ask your sensei if it's okay, record a short video of your practice, get it uploaded to YouTube on an unlisted link, send it over. I'll do an analysis video for you. It'll be published here on YouTube, so you can't be shy about it. But that's the best way for me to help you on this. And anyone else can do that too. I do these analysis videos where people send me videos either from gradings or from their cake or sometimes from Shiai. And I'll do an analysis video that not only hopefully helps you, but obviously everyone else who's watching. I'd recommend doing that, actually, to be honest, because I'd love to help you. And I think it's the sort of thing that without me seeing it, I can't really say too much. But like I say, I think the probability is lack of Kikentai no Ichi, but without seeing it, I can't definitely say for certain. So, next one, your thoughts on the waiting period between ranks up to Jodan. After the bad times, I feel like there should be some adjustment. For those of us who are lucky enough to be able to practice the last 2 years, but testing hasn't really started up until recently, I feel like it's put us behind where we should be rank-wise. I feel like for Jodan and under the waiting period, is a bit silly. I understand, especially in Japan, due to the age they start at, the weight for the Kodansha ranks. So this is an interesting question, and it's come up quite a lot before. I actually, I pretty much agree with the waiting periods between Dan ranks. You have to wait 1 year. We'll talk about this a bit more as well in a minute, because someone else has also asked me a similar thing in the next question. So we'll talk about it a little bit more in context with that too. In fact, do you know what we'll do? I think we'll read the next question and we'll tackle both questions together. It's a bit of a different way of doing it. The next question says, hey Andy, I heard that in Japan for Kenshi who are over 50 years old, the waiting time to take the exam for the next level is halved. For example, after 4th Dan, you can get 5th Dan in 2 years. Does this practice apply outside of Japan? Okay, so there are two things. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the actual regulations for grading exams, and then we can talk about both of these questions together. Okay, so just bear with me. Oof, okay, we're back. This document here, this is the PDF. You can actually get it on the internet. It's the Zenkennen regulations for grading Shogo, Dan, Q, Shinsa. It was published in, I think it was first published in 2014. So I'm not sure if it's dead up to date. There's another date on it there, which is from a couple of years ago too. So I think these are still valid, but I can't say for definite. But I'm pretty sure they are. I doubt they've changed massively, if they've changed at all. They are still up there on the website. I think I got them through a Google search, so I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty confident they're still valid though. So these lay out the regulations for Shinsa, for grading, and here we have. So this is in relation to the first question that we talked about here about the waiting period. So there's a waiting period between grades in Kendo. This says here that to take Jodan, you must be someone who has IQ and who has the grade of IQ and be of the age of 13 or older. To take Nidan, you have to hold the rank of Shodan and have held it for at least a year. For Sandan, you have to hold the rank of Nidan and have held it for 2 years. 4th Dan, you need 3rd Dan for 3 years. 5th Dan, you need 4th Dan for 4 years. 6th Dan, you need 5th Dan for 5 years. 7th Dan, you need 6th Dan for 6 years. And then, of course, 8th Dan, you need to be 7th Dan for at least 10 years. And you must be over the age of 46. I'll come to the second part of that in a minute, because that's in relevance to the second part of the second question. But in relevance to the first question, so personally, I think that these are a good idea. They're not and I don't think that they need to be adjusted for the sake of you know, the last couple of years either. I'm not like I'm not sure why you need to adjust it because of that. Because if you haven't trained for 2 years, you don't have to take it after that time. If you don't feel ready, you can wait longer. That's okay, right? Or are you sort of saying that, say you're Nidan and you passed Nidan, and just let's say 2 years ago, then the whole thing happened. You couldn't do any Kendo, and then suddenly you're able to take Sandan even though you couldn't do any training. Like, you don't have to take Sandan then if you don't feel like you're ready, right? If anything, the argument would be they should be extended for the 2 years. I don't think that's correct either. I think if I'm following the logic right, I don't quite get why you would remove them because of the 2 year thing. Am I missing something? Is there something I'm not quite getting there? Maybe there is. I'm not sure. But what I would say is, how can I explain this properly? What I would say is that those years of what it says as is Shugyo. Shugyo, for me, in Kendo, isn't just time in the dojo. It's not just time in the dojo. You need to mature as a Kendoka, which is influenced by your life outside of the dojo as well as in it. That's why it's very, very common, for example, for, let's say, many people have a big gap in Japan, I'm talking about, between taking 3rd dan and 4th dan. And that's because they'll get up to 3rd dan in high school and then they'll stop Kendo after high school and they'll take a very big break, maybe 10 or 15 years, and then they'll come back to Kendo. And straight away they might do their 4th dan and they'll pass it. Because they'll find that even though they haven't done Kendo for all that time, the maturity that they've gained as a person over those years, when they've returned to Kendo, has benefited them in different ways. And it's ways that are more relevant to the grade and structure. So yeah, I don't think they need to be adjusted because of any specific situation. And I think that the time spent between the grades is valuable. It's not that long. It's not that long either. So it's not like holding you back. There's nobody like, I mean, of course, there's people who pass Shodan who could probably pass Nidan immediately. Of course, there are those people, because usually young people that haven't been able to grade. Yeah. Of course, there are actually, there's loads, especially in Japan, where you get these like 13-year-old kids that are really, really good. Yeah, they'd pass Nidan and probably Sandan. Some of them. But it's kind of not the point, you know. That patience is also part of the overall Kendo Shugyo, I think. So my thoughts on it are that they don't need to be adjusted. Then I'm just rereading over your question. I know it's not on the screen right now, but you said that for those lucky enough to be able to practice the last 2 years, testing hasn't really started up until recently. I feel it's put us behind where we should be rank-wise. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, I feel like I'm not answering your question properly, because I feel like maybe I'm misunderstanding somewhere. But like, I mean, do you mean if you, let's say you were between 2nd dan and 3rd dan then, and then you had to take a year or 2 off? So you should, even though you were about to take 3rd dan, now you had to wait an extra year or 2 to take 3rd dan, so that you think your gap between 3rd dan and 4th dan should be shortened, maybe, to make up for the 2 years you lost. I think that's the point you're making, but I still think the answer is no. I'm afraid. I think it's not about it's not about that. I think the time period between, especially between 3rd dan and 4th dan, is extremely important. And I don't think you can shorten it except in potentially, what can I say? Like exceptional individual cases. Okay, so that's what I think. That's my thoughts on it, right now. I missed 2 years of, well, a year and a bit of proper training as well. You know, so yeah, I get it. I do. I've now got I now ended up with a shorter time to prepare for my next one, right? But I don't think we need to. I don't think it's a good idea to start messing with that. I think it's in a good place. In response to the second question was, you've heard that in Japan, Kenshi over 50 years old can half the waiting time. It's not quite how it works. So there's two things here that says the below criteria would also be acceptable if, like, the federation leader agrees to it, that there's special circumstances for it. Okay, so you have to have the special circumstances first of all. It's not automatic. The first is that from second dan through to fifth dan, applicants may be able to apply depending on their grade, their age, rather than what grade they currently hold and their previous, time since taking the last one. So people over 35 in special circumstances may be allowed to take straight to Nidan. People over 40 may be able to take straight away to third dan. People over 45 might be able to take straight away to fourth dan, and people over 50 might be able to straight away take to fifth dan. I've never heard or seen it happen. Not saying it doesn't. I'm sure it does, but it's not a common occurrence. As I say, it's got to be special circumstances. And then there's another example here as well, in that from first dan to fifth dan, then again, in the sort of special circumstances, if someone has a particularly advanced ability, then they may be granted permission to test earlier. Anyone who is IQ that is particularly advanced in ability may be allowed to test for Jodan. Now, the only caveat they put on Jodan is being under 13. So I guess what they mean is if there's like a particularly awesome 12-year-old, they might let them test for Jodan. That probably happens because it's usually, maybe they're like 2 months away from being 13 and the next Jodan grading isn't for months and they're like, I don't know, prefecture champion or something. Maybe not even that. But that sort of dispensation, I can imagine, that sort of exception is probably happening from time to time. For Nidan, if you've got, again, this is all if you've got exceptional ability and there are exceptional circumstances. Yeah. 3 months after taking Jodan, Sandan 1 year after taking Nidan, Yondan 2 years after taking Sandan, and Godan 3 years after taking Yondan. So that's basically how that works. It's a couple of exceptional situations. As I said, I've never ever seen it happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. Perhaps it does. As I say, I can imagine that one for the Jodan. If there's some kid that's like 12 and is like a couple of weeks away or days away from being 13 at the time of the grading, then I can imagine that an exception could be made. But this idea of sort of, okay, you're over 50, so automatically your grading clock is halved. I haven't seen or heard of that and I can't find anything of it. perhaps it exists somewhere, and if anyone knows of it, you can post it in the comments and I'll have a look at it next time. Okay, so that's that. I hope that makes some sense. Okay, so back to the questions. Hi Andy, question for Kendo RANT if he thinks it's useful. Okay, let's have a look. It's quite a long one. Let's have a look. Right, this one says, hi Andy, question for Kendo if you think it's useful. I'm soon to have to get some new Shinai. I'm thinking about trying something slightly more specific than whatever I'm gifted or is the cheapest. I've started playing Jodan for 4 or 5 months and I wonder how specific I should be about picking a Shinai. I was gifted an oval Kodo Shinai with a thick grip and fell in love with it, especially more recently in Jodan. It gives me the confidence that I'm holding it in the correct orientation without needing to see it as well as the feeling of better tenouchi. I watched your Shinai video and you said that Jodan players normally use Kodo style with the extra weight at the tip and durability. It's not that they normally is, it is popular, which makes sense, but I struggle to find any with oval or oval octagonal grip, which I'm also tempted to try. They all seem to be door body or not a thick grip. So my suggestions are, does it make sense for a thicker grip to give the feeling of better tenouchi? Which is more important for me in your opinion, the grip, oval versus circle, or the shape, kodo versus door body? And which way do you lean when it comes to oval versus oval octagon? Is this something you can make, kodo with thick oval grip, but doesn't list on your website because the market is small? I'm only Nidan, so I would fully understand if the responses doesn't matter at your level, but I thought I'd ask regardless. Sorry for the long question. Thanks for all your vids and advice. Okay, good. So first off, no, it's not a case of it doesn't matter at your level. At Nidan, you should be at the point where you are able to recognize the difference between Shinai. Interesting. Let's tackle these questions. Does it make sense for a thicker grip to give me the better feeling of tenouchi? Yes, that is a personal thing. Some people definitely find that. Lots of people find that the thicker grip helps them avoid over gripping the Shinai and gives them a more comfortable hold on the Shinai. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me if you feel like that at all. Lots of people do. In terms of what's more important between the grip shape or the shape of the Shinai, I'd say the grip shape is more important if you had to choose between the two. That will definitely have a more direct influence on the feeling of the Shinai than the overall balance of the Shinai will. In terms of which way do I lean when it comes to oval versus oval octagon, I prefer the octagonal one. I find it more comfortable, though I'll be straight up with you right now. I am not a I personally am not a big user of oval grip Shinai. I happen to like round grip Shinai. I don't mind I do have an oval octagonal one, which I occasionally use. I don't mind using. And I have a Sei Hakaku, the normal octagon one too, which I quite like too. It's a Tenma on our website and Hachiman. I have both of those. They're pretty good. So yeah. But at the minute, like if I'm picking a Shinai straight out of our range to use personally, I'm more on the kind of Junki Shikon area, which is like the kind of Jissengata round grip. All right, Shikon is really cool. Actually, I'm not a massive fan of short grips personally, but actually the Shikon is pretty. I'm quite happy with it. It's in a great place, but it's not relevant to you. Is it something we can make kodo with a thick oval grip? I'm pretty sure it is. I'm sure it is actually. We don't have it as standard because it is not a common request. All right, a thick oval Shinai in itself isn't a massively requested Shinai, but the kodo style as well, it just isn't super popular. That isn't to say I can't get it. Fire us an email, mail@KendoStar.com, and we'll see what we can hook you up with. Okay, and as I say, at Nidan, I think you're at the right place to be starting to explore this sort of thing. Next one, your most recent light bulb moment in Kendo, please, Sensei. That's kind of a tough one. I have sort of light bulb moments all the time, but they're not big ones. They're not big ones. I guess what would be my biggest light bulb recent light bulb moment? Maybe for me, my approach to it's a difficult thing to talk about. In that it's not difficult in that way. But I mean, it's like hard to verbalize. But I'm obviously very much concentrated towards how to achieve seventh dan at the moment. All right, it's something that causes me quite a lot of concern, as it's my next challenge. And I'd say that two things for me that have been sort of light bulb moments are the interaction, or the strategy, I should probably say. Don't die from hay fever allergies right now. Right now, from let's see if I've got a pen, got a pencil, got a pencil and a finger. From it's probably see my fingers. Okay, so far distance, yeah, this part, and if I'm the pencil, yeah, here. The journey between shokuji no mai, this part of touching, and isokuito, and then not just, obviously, just attacking from isokuito isn't particularly always a sensible idea too. There's you've got to have a little bit of, what do you call it, like what's the word? Like a little bit of extra leeway in your isokuito, so that you've got that bit extra for a bit more seme. Yeah. And then when they do the seme, I can do the seme kaishi. That's this interaction here has been something of a light bulb moment for me, I guess, in the last 6 to 12 months. It's very, very difficult. It's a big aspect of high level Kendo, and it is something I'm currently studying. So yeah. But if you're like, I think it's the sort of thing that you should look at when you are trying to get through seventh dan. I think that is the hurdle I have to get over for that. All right. So don't take too much from it. Yeah. Don't, if you don't try and do it if it's above your level. That's the not don't try and do it, but don't put too much thought into it when there's other more important things first, is what I'm getting at. All right. I mean that in the best way. I've a Borguf question that came up in discussion with my friends. You mentioned many times how the various fudons, member don, kodepa don, get more compressed with more stitches. Before stitching, is there a standard thickness, or are there options for thicker fudons? So at KendoStar, we make them as thick as we possibly can, for the most part. We can't make them much thicker, because once you start to get too thick, the sewing machine won't penetrate them. So yeah, there is a difficulty once you get to a certain thickness, so you won't get much. That's why we do things like with the Vanguard Myrmidon, where for example, we have the rows of stitching and then the pretty big gap that leaves that cushion, that thickness in the fudon, where we wouldn't normally get that thickness out of a fudon, because we, in order to stitch a fudon and keep it that thick, we need to put so much padding in there the sewing machine won't be able to penetrate it. So yeah, that's the thing there. If you want the thickest possible fudon, something like the Vanguard Myrmidon is a great choice. But even if you go with something like our regular Vanguard, or like our Vanguard Praetor, or new Vanguard Sentinel, oh, that's such an awesome burger. that's got nice big wide stitching. That's why, you know, you get to keep some of that thickness in the stitching, in the futon. Hi Andy, in grading exams, it is necessary to show Seme and Tame. What can I do when my opponent performs Seme with his right foot in the way you've demonstrated in your Kendo show for Debana waza to act in the proper way? In Jigeko, I feel the only correct waza or Oji waza, so it becomes to be a race to be the first who rushes in. This really depends on what level of grading you're talking about. Let's assume that it's for 5th Dan or higher. All right? Potentially 4th Dan. All right. Tame means that you're ready to strike immediately. Okay? It means you've got power, energy stored up, built up, ready to go in your calf, ready to launch you immediately. Yeah? So, if they step in and do that Seme with their right foot, now that video only shows one way of doing the Seme, by the way, but step in with the right foot like that, then if you just launch an attack immediately, then probably you're going to receive the Banawaza or Juwaza, something like that, right? So first off, what I would do, it's easier to say this now because I have the experience to say it. I'm not sure I would have realised this at sort of 4th Dan, 5th Dan level, but they step in this way, I would test them back as well this way, right? What you're going to do. And I'd be ready. And because they're looking for Debana, they're going to, oh, what's going to happen? And then one of you's going to have to do something. So then you have to make a judgment call. Are they going to strike? If not, are you going to strike? And if you are going to strike, how are you going to strike? Okay? That's what you don't want to do is wait to see what happens. Yeah? You can apply it, you know, as they start to come in, you can come in too. Okay, let's see what you've got. Let's see what happens. Yeah? Oh, pam pam, this way. Or steps in, pam, something like that. Yeah? You have to use your eyes and watch them. See how they respond when you throw some of that Seme back at them. All right? And if you're not ready when they step in this way, then with Seme, you can readjust your distance. Yeah. You know, and in a way, it does become a race to be the first who rushes in. But also, if you're rushing into a trap, that's a problem as well. Imagine it like one of these, I often describe it as like, you know, in these old Wild West movies where they're having the sort of shoot off. Is that what it's called? You know, where they like, you know, face each other and they've got their hands over their holsters and the first one to draw. It's like that tension, you know, that he's going to go, he's going to go, he's going to go, he's going to go, he's going to, yeah. Or it's like, if you ever watch the sumo wrestling, there's that tension between the two wrestlers before they start. Yeah, they get to the starting position, and they crouch down, and they're staring at each other. Is this gonna? No, I'm gonna stand up and go and throw some more salt. Yeah, and then back. Are we going new? Are we going new? Are we going no? Going back, and back again. Are we going new? Yes. Sometimes happens this way. Yeah. This is the kind of idea. Yeah. It's not in a way, it's not a concept that's exclusive to Kendo. It's how this concept exists in Kendo. Yeah, that kind of, it's like a rope that's tied between you, ready to break, and it's who's going to make that move. Yeah. Now, it sounds a little bit esoteric, but it's not. You know, in practice, it's not. Okay, here we go. What have we got now? I think this is the last one. So, okay, yeah, I know we've been going on for quite a while. So let's have a look. Right, so, hello Andy Sensei, hope all's been well. I have a few questions, please. With rumours that the new Shiai rules involving Super Zeri are here to stay, should we start implementing these rules in our regular cake or two? Also, should they be applied to Shinsa, 4th, 5th Dan, or even 6th, 7th Dan Shinsa? 3, a recent Shiai, one of... did we go straight from 1 to 3 there? We did. That might have been my formatting issue. Or I hope I haven't missed number 2. A recent Shiai, one of the competitors ended up being on the edge of the Shiai-jo, close to the Shinpancho. His opponent immediately saw this as an opportunity to try and get a hand socker awarded to his opponent by violently shoving him outside the Shiai-jo and into the Shinpancho. Hand socker was given only to the Shiai-sha, who was shoved out of the Shiai-jo. However, should this not have been seen as hand socker against the person doing the shoving for excessive force? Furthermore, there were some steps to the right of the Shinpancho that if he were shoved into would have caused some serious injury. Right, 2 things. I'm just gonna pick on you. It's not Hansuko, it's Hansoku. Okay? I'm not being pedantic. I am being pedantic, but if I don't correct this stuff, it gets stuck as a habit, doesn't it? All right, so it's Hansoku, not Hansuko. Okay, right. In terms of next one. I'll come back to that. Our dojo is quite a mixed bag of children. That's great. Pre-teens 6 to 11, and teens 12 to 19. Getting the right Shinai for them has been challenging, as there's some 11-year-olds as big as the 19-year-olds. Yeah, that's true. In such a case, how does one get the right Shinai for them? Besides the Shinai rules outlined by the AJKF, is there any other method to determine the correct Shinai for them? All right, so let's tackle these one at a time. So the new Shiai rules, yeah, they're here to stay. Let's be honest, they're here to stay. In the beginning, they said it was sort of to stop infections of stuff, but I think it's been accepted now that it's more to do with regulating time spent in Super Zeri. Agree with it or don't agree with it, it doesn't matter. That's the way it is. Yes, we should probably start practicing with that in mind. So now, if you come to Super Zeri, you have 1 breath time, whatever that is. I'd say 3 to 5 seconds to make a strike, Hikiwaza. And if none happens, then you should separate. What you can't do now is hang at Super Zeri and fight at Super Zeri anymore. In terms of Shinsa, I mean, that situation doesn't happen at Shinsa, does it? Let's be honest. People don't tend to get to Super Zeri in the Shinsa. So I don't think it's particularly relevant to the Shinsa, but if it does come up in the Shinsa, if you do find yourself at Super Zeri in Shinsa, then yeah, make Hikiwaza fast or retreat. Right, this is an interesting one about the Shiai. It's probably it's a pretty misinterpreted aspect of the rules. I think the English translation doesn't necessarily help with the rules on this. I haven't seen the situation that you talked about. All right, I haven't seen the situation you talked about. How you describe it sounds to me like it was hand socker for the player that went out of the Shiai-jo. So that might be controversial, but that's how it goes. That's how it goes. If the excessive force pushing thing is like if you're at the middle of the Shiai-jo, one end of the Shiai-jo, and you're trying to just push them out from one end to the other, then it's hand socker for you. But if they're at the edge of the Shiai-jo, you give them a push and they go out, then it's hand socker for them, right? The fact that Shinpancho was there is not the concern of the Shiai-sha. That's nothing to do with the Shiai-sha. In all honesty, the Shinpancho should not be sat right on the Shiai-jo edge. Usually there should be like at least a meter of space around the Shiai-jo. Now I get that that's not always possible. It's not. And if you are a Shiai-sha, if you're playing, you should bear that in mind as well. You don't need to be stupid. Yeah. You've got a brain and eyes, so you know you don't need to be over the top. But stuff that could cause injury for people that come out of the Shiai should, like steps, like you say, you should probably try and place them further away, or make it so the Shiai isn't there. Potentially even make the Shiai smaller if necessary. But yeah, if one player's at the edge of the Shiai and they get pushed out, it's Jogai Hansoku. Jogai is to step out. It's not really no, it's not excessive force. It's a pretty misinterpreted section of the rules, frankly. I seem to find outside of Japan, like in my experience, certainly in the UK, Shimpan often want to try and interpret the rules in a sort of overly strict way, or in a bit of a different way, almost as if they sort of want to appeal that they know the rules really well or something. I don't know. But it is one of those that the excessive force, I mean, it means like look, just watch some Shiai from Japan, like the All Japan Championships from a couple of years ago. Okay, so we're back. Sorry about the technical difficulty I experienced there. Yeah, go and watch the match from the All Japan Championships. I can't remember exactly which one it was, a few years ago now, between Nishimura Hidehisa and Umegatani Kakeru. That's pretty much about the borderline as to how far you can get with excessive pushing. You'll see there some examples about as far as you can probably get away with. It's probably a little bit excessive, that one. Do not try and emulate it. You know, you're talking about peak athletes there that are doing that. Don't pretend that you're on the same level and can do it as well. But you know, for me, yeah, watching that, it was like, oh, that's a little bit borderline in terms of which way the handsock was going to go. But the Hanshi that were refereeing it obviously decided it to go in the way that it did. So yeah, look, if someone stood at the edge of the Shiai, they're out, and they get pushed out, they're out. That's it. To be honest, don't start all this rubbish of like, oh, well, did they actually try to make a strike afterwards? It's like, don't be silly. That's not how the rules are supposed to be intended. As can be seen, case in point, by the Hanshi that are adjudicating the All Japan Championships and others. In terms of the kids Shinai, yeah, look, it goes off height if they're under 12. Up to size 37. 37 is for 12-year-olds and above, 12 to 15. And from under that, it depends on their height and build and gender, really, potentially. They're not separated by gender under that age, so boys and girls obviously might want to use a smaller one, depending on their, or a bigger one, depending on their sort of physical capability. Look, the best thing to do is before you buy them, just drop us a line. Okay, so there we are, we're at the end. Sorry about the technical difficulties with the camera and all that sort of thing. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for joining me, watching all the way to the end. Shop at KendoStar. See you next time. Bye-bye.